right, you already know what time it is. You already know what we talking about. It's wartime, baby. We get wild. You see the rains, you feel me? We're real festive in here, you know what I mean? We ain't talking about Xmas, you feel me? Not Christmas. Not yet. We're talking about wartime, dog.
That's it, man. We're out here.
We're super vibing before HBO shuts my shit down. We're here for the House of Dragon season 1 review discussion. We're going to coming for season 2. General, mainly we're just going to do a quick rundown of our feelings of the first season and all that. This episode here, we started out hot with a miscarriage. You feel me?
Yeah, that shit was crazy. That was a little too much.
We will not even mince any words there. Rhaenyra, she was pregnant. She'd been pregnant. She went ahead and she just pulled that thing right out herself. No assistance needed. You feel me?
Put a fist in there.
Put a fist in there. Yeah, and she fixed it. But either way, so yeah, that was. Yeah, that was pretty much how we started out the episode. We were getting some of the news delivered, I believe, and then at the same time, she was delivering that thing, and nobody really knew what to do. It seemed like a lot of the characters thought that, which seems to be common in this universe in this time, that she might not even make it through the miscarriage. And that there might be a decision that needs to be made. Because at one point they're saying to Damon, they're like, go get the maesters or some shit like that. And he's like, come on, bro. Yeah, we've been there.
You can't do that with the queen, boy.
Yeah. No, we got to figure it out. We got to try. Then she's just like, well, let me. We got to try. We got to try to save this lady. It's a little bit more important than that. But I thought that was interesting. It obviously kind of like paralleled Viserys's situation and decision, just on the opposite end. I guess her mother's situation actually. And yeah, thankfully she survived. The baby did not. They had a nice little cremation for the baby, which once again was kind of paralleled the cremation of the baby that happened earlier in the season. Her sibling that didn't make it, along with her mother that also got cremated.
A lot of people dying.
Yeah, a lot of people about it. But yeah, man. So right off the bat, how'd you feel about that? We came in hot.
I thought that was an interesting perspective to show, like, everything that she's going through at that time. On top of that, you know what I mean? Like, so it just kind of shows you that she's already emotional from loss.
Sure.
And then from one child, and then then that's just one of the things that builds up to like the climax of the whole episode. But
sure,
I thought it was it was a very big part of the episode. So I'm like, okay, this definitely has a lot of meaning. No,
I think that's a good point as far as like it foreshadowing a little bit. I mean, it definitely in this episode, I feel like there's a lot of loss compounded on top of each other. So you had, like I said, that happened at the very beginning of the episode. And I think the next thing she figures out is basically like, oh, your dad, like officially he had passed. I think that's like first thing she figures out when she's, moving around or whatever. Am I right on that, or am I remembering that?
Yeah, no, she finds out and then has a miscarriage.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. So yeah. Then after that, Damon is already making moves. That makes sense. Cause yeah, while she's like going through it, he's around that table and they're like, yo, we need to do this and that. And then, her oldest Jacaerys comes out and he's like, yo, she said no moves until she's done with this whole situation. And then Damon's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so we got shit we got to do.
He's like, well, she's on her back right now. She can't protect the realm. Like,
for sure. I think that was a common, like push and pull. I'm curious how that's going to unfold in season 2, as far as like between her and Damon. There was clear disagreements on how things were going so far, how they should address the situation with Aegon being.
But then if you think about it though, like he immediately backs her by taking those guards out to the dragon and threatening them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that's what he was saying, because he tells Jacaerys, he's like, oh, I'm going to show you what loyalty is really about. You know what I mean? It's not about listening to people necessarily. At least that's how I took it. It's not necessarily about following orders. It's about what's doing what's best for your family. But that's a judgment call. And when you're talking about the queen, you know what I mean? You can't like just usurp her judgment consistently, which is something that I think we've seen. And then we even seen him get a little physically violent with her at some point. You know what I mean? I'm not sure she liked that one. You know what I mean? I would have agreed with you, at other points, but I'm not sure if that one really tickled her fancy. You feel what I'm saying? I feel like she felt a little threatened and scared. Yeah.
I think she got a little wet.
Well, I mean, look, both can be true. Both could be true. Okay.
Yeah, he might have held it for a little too long, though.
Yeah, I think maybe he held that like where oxygen was becoming an issue. You know what I mean? It was becoming asphyxiation. It was no longer, else. But he
by strangulation.
Well, and that was a situation where he was already kind of like being outwardly he was questioning her decisions outwardly in front of everybody, and then she had to ask him to clear the room, which maybe was her bad because she cleared the room with a fucking serial murderer. It's like, that's not the person you clear the room with. Maybe it's like clear the room and but it's everybody except my bodyguards. But yeah, no, she cleared the room, and he took advantage of that situation and did let her know, like, hey, at the end of the day, I do got my hands around your throat, so it could end right now. You know what I mean, queen or not, I don't give a fuck about that crown. You're my bitch. And like you say, she got what she did get wet a little bit, but at the end of the day, you know what I mean, like I don't think she appreciated that from a
degenerate.
Yeah, from a practical standpoint, I think that she recognizes that some of what he's doing is challenging her rule already to a certain extent. Like in front of people, they're already questioning her as a female, which is something we've seen consistently. And then now you have her right hand, her husband, you know what I mean? Like openly questioning her judgment and also saying that she's not being strong enough, which is already something that may be something that she has to fight against as being a woman. You feel what I'm saying?
She does check him though later on when Otto pulls up, with his band of thugs.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to like make orders, and she's like, "No, this is what we're gonna do. This is what I said." And you move the fuck out of the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then at the same time, though, once again, that was another situation where he, kind of like acted quickly, and I don't know if that's gonna play out well. You feel me? Because he draws the sword, where he's like, "Okay, y'all were disrespectful. Let's go ahead and just get to it." So I don't know. I think that they're setting up a clear kind of like power struggle, and you have to remember Daemon. Ever since Viserys was king, there was some contention between him maybe feeling like he was a more fit ruler. You feel what I'm saying? Like where he wanted to be king or whatever.
But he did anoint her crown though, so I don't know. It's kind of like
you said what?
Damien was her crown. I know, like you know what I'm saying. The person who put the crown on her head. So.
Yeah, no, I feel you well, but right now, like some people viewed even when they got together as a power play on his part, like him crowning her is him crowning himself as well. You feel what I'm saying? He's her husband,
right? He's the king consort, but
yeah. So what if she dies? Which after he wrapped his hand around her throat, I'm not putting it past him that could be something he could consider. Like, let me kill her, and then now I'm king for real. That's the closest to the crown that he's ever been at this point. I guess I take that back. He was the same distance from the crown before Viserys officially named Rhaenyra as his heir, which was why at that point there was kind of some contention and whatever. He went ahead and ran off and started doing all his crazy shit,
killing his wife and all types of shit.
Yeah, doing big shit. Which who knows? Which now looking back on that, maybe that all was a part of this. Well, in a part of this bigger plan. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't give him so much credit on being like so cerebral and actually thinking through plans and being a planner like that. He's a little bit more emotional, in my opinion. Yeah, but like I said, maybe at least maybe I'm underestimating him in that case. And maybe when he killed his wife and then ended up getting with Lena, she went ahead and passed. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Like I said, my eyes on him as far as like he could be next usurper up. You feel what I'm saying?
There's a few usurpers.
Well, there's definitely mad usurpers out there right now. You got Aemon's ready to usurp his brother. You got Aegon's like he usurped, but he's like, I really don't want to usurp.
I have a new perspective on Aemon. He's really a pussy.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let's get to it. So,
No, keep going with the busy strippers though. I want to hear the list.
well, no, that's really well. That's really it. I mean, we do got mad other shit that we got to talk about, like the fucking Corliss shit. He was another person that was a usurper in the wing, but now coming back. At least he was a conniver, like you're saying, trying to get his family wherever he needed to get them. But when we saw him in this episode, he had a very different attitude, where he was like,
they're all dead.
They're all, yeah, well, true. Well, he still has his granddaughters, but maybe that's why. And also, he doesn't see them as people that are in line for the crown, but they are already betrothed and all that. So I wonder what kind of implications that had when he's like, "Yo, we need to just go to Driftmark and spend the rest of our days with our grandchildren and shit." So I mean, they're already betrothed. Was he talking about taking them and like breaking that off and whatever? I guess it doesn't really matter. But by the end of that conversation, Rhaenys, who through the entire series to this point has been pretty skeptical of Rhaenyra, you finally see her, take up for her and actually like show where her alliance is and show that she's like backing her for real. And I think that's where we can plan to see her. Like, I think she's going to be on that side until she dies. Which, I think will probably happen and probably happen in battle or something like that. But she was even out there. She was like, "Yo, let me go patrol the ocean." Remember that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, she's about it right now. Like,
she should have then just killed them all when she had the chance.
100%. I understand from like from a story perspective, like the I guess the conflict within herself in that moment, like kill all of this family of like, some of them are innocent. You know what I mean? Some of them have really nothing to do with shit. But then none
of them are innocent. They're all bastards.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that, because you got I think her name's Helena, the one that's married to Aegon, his sister. I ain't seen her do anything bad or negative to anybody except play with spiders like a weirdo. And I mean, she's definitely doing some dark magic. But and then you got some little jits up there and stuff like that.
She played with the black arts. But.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's going to probably come into play. And she definitely, somebody had pointed out to me that when they put the crown on Aegon, she like looked away and stuff like that. So she definitely has some issues with Aegon heavy. She may even be the downfall to him at some point. I do think that we may see Aegon die, and then another one of the Greens might even take his place before the war is completely over. But yeah, I don't necessarily think he's long for the Game of Thrones world either. But yeah, so she ends up sparing that family in favor. That's what I'm saying. She spares that family, but then like really, I feel like you're just saving yourself feelings, because at the end of the day, through you sparing that family, you caused the death of what's going to be hundreds of thousands of innocent people. And then also those people are still going to meet their end some way or another, probably even worse now, because you didn't want to just, set their ass on fire real quick. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Maylees look hungry too, boy.
Oh man, no, you're not wrong. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, feed them. Well, we saw later on in the show that dragons do eat dragons for real. Then let's see here, Mrs. Oh yeah, the one thing I want to talk about with Corliss and Rhaenys is that they still don't know that their son is still alive. So I think that's going to end up coming into play. I think when Corliss ends up dying, possibly of like old age or something like that, and then you may have like a kind of like up in the air, like who's going to take over the Valyrian fleet and stuff like that. I think we'll end up having that payoff from Rhaenyra. And what was dude's name? I don't even fucking remember homeboy's name.
Strong.
Huh? No. The her actual husband, the dude that wasn't fucking her though.
Leno.
Okay, yeah. So I think that we'll end up seeing that pay off, and her mercy in a way end up paying off where he'll come back. I believe in the books that's one of the things that they've diverted from, and I don't no spoilers for anybody watching or anything like that for things coming ahead. But from what I've read and stuff like that, I believe that in the books he legitimately dies.
They're definitely changing the ending of this show for sure.
Well, I mean, it's something you had spoiled for me was the end of this episode. You had told me that like 2 weeks ago or whatever. That spoiler alert, by the way, if you're watching this, you should already know it's a fucking discussion, for fuck's sake. But yeah, that Luke was going to die.
Who
And yeah, that definitely happened. But I didn't expect for it to happen how it did happen. And let's kind of get into that. So yeah, Rhaenyra, how we lead into that is Rhaenyra has she has a meeting with her sons, and she tells them specifically, like, hey, I'm going to send you. This is after small council meetings and things like that, where they're like, hey, these houses took old oaths before we get into war. And this is Rhaenyra saying, I'm not going to go to war. I want to know exactly where everybody lies before we do that, showing a lot of restraint. And that's one of the things that Rhaenys really appreciated from her, was that she wasn't being overly zealous. And she also wasn't caving to the pressure of all these like senior advisors who were all men. She, stood her own and was like, no, I believe this is the right decision. We're gonna approach this with some tact, and we're just not gonna go, basically not gonna be emotional, like, yo, they took my throne, now let's fly over. Because that's what Damon was even saying. He's like, yo, we got 13 dragons, let's just fly over there, set that whole bitch ablaze. And then she's like, well, what the fuck is the point of doing that? And then now I'm the queen of not shit, in which I thought was an interesting. I don't know if this was an intentional callback, but it was an interesting one. As far as, like, I don't know if you remember in the Game of Thrones series, Varys says to Littlefinger something along those lines, where he says, like, basically, you would set the whole realm ablaze if it meant that you could be king of the ashes or some shit like that. It was real poetic and nice. So I thought this was interesting, where Rhaenyra had that kind of wisdom, where she wasn't going to do that, and she had the capability more than Littlefinger ever had the capability of doing that. Like,
she's an idiot. She should have done it.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we'll definitely see. I think time will tell if she was an idiot, but we see, for example, the situation with Daenerys. She's somebody that actually did do it. And you saw how that went. Her reign was fucking 35 minutes. And then she got stabbed by her boyfriend / cousin or whatever the fuck. So I don't know. I don't know if that works. But she did that. And then she ended up, it looked like the Third Reich had taken over King's Landing. You feel what I'm saying? Nobody was looking her in the eye and shit. Everybody's like, oh, okay, don't catch me on fire, bitch. So, I mean, I think that
That's very true.
There's something to be said about how Rhaenyra is handling it and the restraint. And I think that she's way more battle tested than her father was. So I don't think that the same fears, I think unfairly, that's being casted on her. Like Damon had mentioned that, where he's like, oh, you sound like your dad and shit like that. And people always would say that Viserys was basically too pussy to go to war or whatever the fuck, and would let shit slide. I don't think Rhaenyra is doing that. I don't think it's the same thing. I think she's just being
very diplomatic.
Yeah, and being cerebral with it. But yeah, so you end up having, she tells her sons, hey, we need to go talk to a few houses that we're familiar with, which was the Tullys, the Baratheons, and the Starks, which I imagine whichever side these guys are going to land on, it's going to be the same side, because these are all houses from the original series that were directly tied. So Catelyn Stark was a Tully. And then you got obviously Eddard Stark and his whole family. They're Starks.
Sworn to the Stark banner.
And then you have the Baratheons, who was Robert Baratheon. They eventually usurped the crown. But I think wherever they land, they're going to be on the same side, because Robert Baratheon and Eddard Stark, they were obviously best friends their entire life. And then Catelyn Stark becomes betrothed to the Starks. Although now I'm thinking about that, I wonder if the betrothed and all that shit ends up being necessary because of this kind of shit, where houses get divided and maybe Tully and Stark end up on opposite sides. And then by the time of the actual Game of Thrones, you have to bring those allegiances back together through like marriage and things like that. So I guess I wouldn't completely rule that out as a possibility. But either way, she sends her two sons out to be diplomats. And she says, you are not warriors. You're going there as messengers. I don't want to hear shit about you causing any issues. You feel me? And they both agree, and they swear to it on the Bible of the Seven, which I didn't even think that they believed in. Remember, that was a allegiance that Alicent has been making. And I didn't think that the Targaryens worship those gods like that. If I'm remembering from what I've read and things like that, the militant faith in the Targaryens have had like a really rocky history in general, because the faith doesn't believe in multiple wives and shit like that, doesn't believe in marrying your cousins, and the Targaryens feel really strongly about that kind of shit. So it's like, throughout,
build on it.
Exactly. That is their foundation. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see her pull that out. I think that might be kind of like a political move, but I didn't understand the significance it would have for her kids, since it's not an actual belief system that, as far as I know, they have. So either way, so I just think that's interesting. That's something maybe to keep an eye on for season 2. But so they send them. Lucerys ends up going to the Baratheons. I take it Jacaerys was going to the Starks, and then I don't know who was supposed to make it to the Tullys. Hopefully not Lucerys, because he's never going to make it. So he pulls up to River Run, I believe is where it was. And
Storm's End.
Storm's End, okay, and that's where the Baratheons are. And really great scene where there's lightning in the background. You get a quick glimpse of Aemon's dragon. You just already know. That was nice to kind of like set up the tension right off the bat once he lands and he sees it, and he's like, and he already knows. You know what I mean? It's not a mystery to him. He's not like, yo, they just got a dragon sitting outside their castle. That must not belong to anybody. He knows. He's like, oh fuck, I'm going in here and this is about to be hectic. So he goes into the Great Hall and he has a message to drop off.
Goes in ready to die.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think so. I think he goes in there ready to confront some shit. Well, not necessarily confront some shit, but he knows he's going to be hearing some shit. So he gives this letter to whoever. They give it to the Baratheon sitting lord. And basically he's offended. He's like, yo, Aemon comes here, which, by the way, for people that haven't seen it or haven't put 2 and 2 together, Lucerys took Aemon's eye in an earlier episode when Aemon had actually tamed this dragon or bonded with it. He was feeling himself and he had a whole character change and came back.
I took like a little bitch.
Yeah, well, he came back with his swinging dick and and people weren't feeling that. He got in a big brawl with all of his family, basically, and ends up getting his eye taken. So in this situation, he's still salty about that, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna need that eye before you leave here, though. How'd you feel about that?
I felt like Aemon's like, he's a, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so here's the thing. Like, yeah. He portrayed himself as big bad and all this shit, and like even then he's like, oh, he's just really a bully, right? Because he's not picking on anybody that he knows he can't like necessarily kill. You know, he's picking on Lucerys, yeah, because he took his eye, but he also knows he's inferior. You know what I'm saying? He's a pretty boy. He doesn't like conflict, you know. So that's why he does it.
And he's younger.
He's a lot younger.
Yeah. Like this dude, Lucerys looks like he's probably like 14 years old. Aemon's probably, I mean, the person that plays him has to be easily early 20s.
Right.
But I don't know 100%. What age is, but you know what I mean? Yeah, definitely much older.
Yeah, I know. So that's my thing. So it's just a thing. It's a situation where he's just really a bully. But then again, like he isn't, because he's not a badass, because you could see when he even killed Lucerys, he didn't even want to kill Lucerys. The dragon just fucking took over and did what it wanted.
Well, I don't think that is speaking to his badassery or not. I think that just speaks to his intention. And I understand why his intention was that I think just wanted to scare the shit out of him and bully him, like you're saying. I think you're 100% right on that. But I think the reason he didn't want to kill him isn't because he doesn't have the capability to kill him. I think it's the implications. And I thought that was really great acting on the guy that played him's part, as far as like when he kills him, you see like dude is like his mind's running 1,000,000 miles a minute after that. He's like, fuck, like this is like, you know what I mean? Like, it's on now, really. Like, you're like, yeah, there's no back from this. I just killed a prince. And honestly, on the after the episode thing, I didn't even think of this, but I guess looking back on it, I can see how this was the case. They were saying like the same thing we're saying, where it was completely unintentional, so on and so forth. But then they said that now he's kind of like going through his head, like, do I claim it? You know what I mean? Do I say what happened? Like, oh, I fucked up. I was trying to scare him and then it went too far. Or do I, by the time I get back to King's Landing, say, yeah, I did that. I did that. Okay. Yeah. He came through with his little drag. I had my shit. I decided to eat his ass. You feel me? Pause. So I don't know. I think that's interesting, because I think we got to experience the truth as the viewer, but I think how he represents that in season 2 might be very different. And I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's a never go back moment for that character too. Like at this point, I think he commits to a cruel life of, you know, that kind of shit where he's not going to, I think he will be a badass by next season. He's not going to be playing those games because that's the life. He's on that path now. There is no path of like diplomacy for him. He killed his sister's son. You feel me? So yeah, I think that's really interesting. I thought that was a really good character development. I was sad to see the kid go just because, I mean, he went bad. He just went so bad. I was like, God damn. I mean, he got ate by a dragon, I hope, or else he fell to his death from fucking 10,000 feet above the earth. So there really was no good way of that ending. But you do touch on a good point too, by the way, as far as like, that was the first time I think we've seen dragons like basically outright ignore what their writers are saying, because even Lucerys at one point, when the dragon blows the fire in the other dragon's face, he's saying like, no, serve me, or whatever the fuck he's saying, like some shit like that. And then Aemon says the exact same thing after his dragon goes wild, Vhagar, and just goes ahead and eats them. He's like, no, stop, or some shit like that. And then he says, serve me, same shit. So it's like those dragons, like you said, they're not 100% under their control. They do have a little bit of autonomy, and I wonder how much that is, and if they could turn on them at some point. You know what I'm saying? You piss them off, and the dragon's like, okay, we've never seen that with I guess we did a little bit with Daenerys because she had Drogon or whatever that would kind of do his own thing. But for the most part, he would listen to her. Like if it was like a direct order from her, then he would. But when she wasn't around, he would be like, you know, like eating kids and like catching sheep on fire. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, he was fucking off.
Yeah, he was fucking off. But as far as like direct orders from her, I don't think we ever saw a dragon like disregard that and just, you know, just decide they're going to do their own thing. So yeah, that was interesting. I wonder if it has something to do with like what you were saying. Maybe they weren't strong enough, or they didn't have some level of like respect from the dragon. If that matters,
they say a factor in that though. Not that y'all.
Oh, you're
Drogon thing is they were saying that Daenerys was not his true rider, so that's why he didn't listen all the time and shit like that. They're saying Drogon was supposed to be Jon's rider. And Drogon's the last dragon left, so let that kind of connect the dots there. We might see some shit shake off.
So that might happen in Jon Snow series.
Yeah. Or Daenerys comes back and kills him with Drogon. Either one.
Yeah, one or the other. There can be.
Yeah, there can only be one Targaryen in the world.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I wonder how they're going to handle, because the Jon Snow series is supposed to happen. So I wonder how they're going to handle his lineage, him having kids, because he has that oath that he had with the Night's Watch. But I mean, I'm pretty sure he's off that.
Kind of sealed his lineage. No, it sealed his lineage. He went back to the wall.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was like, he already found one female over the wall.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you never know. She might have had a jit on the low.
My thing is, bro, okay, breaking oath once, what's the issue with breaking it 10, 20, 50, 1,000 times? You feel me? Like, so you might as well just get it in. I mean, honestly, you already broke the oath. There's no going back. The oath is broke. You cannot, well, I guess you can fix what's broken, but at the same time, sometimes you can't. You know what I mean? It's never the same.
I feel you.
Plus, you felt that sweet peach one time. You got to go ahead and, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's always going to win. Say I'm lying.
No, you're not lying. I mean, yeah. He was in there. He got him a little redhead, too, so you know he was in the little firecracker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she was wild. You're never going to replace Eagle. Was her name?
Rest in fucking on ice, too, so you know that shit was a little freaky.
Bro, in the real life actor like decided like, yo, I need to marry her for real. Yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like whatever.
He must have got the puss for real in that scene.
Well, I mean, or he got so close that he's like, oh my gosh, my sexual attraction to this woman is too palpable. You feel what I'm saying? I gotta actually, you know, be intimate with her.
I need her pheromones every day.
Every day for the rest of my life. That is marriage, and that is very sad to say out loud. But but yeah, so let's see what else we got. Okay, I accidentally killed him, and then now we're in war, basically. So that's really the last point for us to touch on here. We are definitely going to be in open war, I imagine, when we pick it up in season 2. I don't know if they'll start at the because we have done a lot of jumping around, so I don't know if we'll be at the beginning of the war. I hope we are. because for me, I like the slow burn with Game of Thrones. I don't need it to be too action packed. I like the in between scenes. I think they mean a lot, and that's one of the reasons I actually really love this scene. I mean this episode up until the very end, there really wasn't much action. There was a lot of tension building and a lot of working towards action, like and a lot of, like when Otto shows up to Dragonstone, like that is tense. There's no actual action that takes place, but it is as intense as a legitimate action scene would be, because you know at any moment, I mean, is Rhaenyra gonna say yo whatever the fuck they say to make them shoot fire from their mouth? It really, that whole scene was set up really great. So I love that. And then also I like the intrigue in between where people are plotting, people are trying to build alliances, I like the betrayal and stuff like that. So that's not to be overshadowed. By the way, the Baratheon dude, I wonder how it's going to work out with Aemon killing Lucerys basically there. You feel what I'm saying? Like he showed up there, and even the Baratheon dude, when they're having their confrontation in his hall, he's like, yo, take this shit outside. Like, I do not want any of this shit to happen in front of me. Which basically sent him to his death, though. He sent Lucerys to his death when he made that decision. You know what I mean? Like in reality.
Right, that's true.
So it's like he could have kept him there under his protection for the night or something like that. There's many other things he could have done, rather than say, you need to go. And then Aemon immediately leaves. Like, actually, he leaves before him even. He's already in the air by the time Lucerys leaves. Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. I think the Baratheon dude, I wonder if there's going to be any kind of holding him responsible. Or is he just so important that they're going to have to kind of look that over a little bit, and they're going to have to go for, I mean, just got to kill Aemon, which I definitely think is going to happen.
Kill his daughters.
There you go. Kill his daughters. Good call. Yeah, nice.
And then you have the son.
I'll definitely join you.
He joins because of Eddard Stark.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely, I think, well, it's not going to be Eddard because he's not alive yet, but it'll be some other Stark.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
I think it is Eddard. Well, no, he leaves. No.
Yeah, this is like 120 years before the Mad King, which during the period of the Mad King, Eddard is there, but he's young. So, like probably like 20, 30 years old. So yeah, he's like 90 years from being born.
Well, I don't think he's that old, because I think when his dad gets his head chopped off, they said he was a boy and he didn't even get to run Winterfell. His uncle ran it, and then he had his uncle arrested and killed or some shit.
So even more so, his ass might be 110 years from being born. You feel me?
Yeah, it might be a little further.
A whole century.
I mean, it's crazy the way the storyline is kind of plotting, though. I mean, I think Aegon becomes kind of like Joffrey in a sense. Alicent becomes more like what's her name? Fucking the Lannister chick, Cersei. She's already shown some Cersei qualities, and you see how that turns out. So
Bro,
going.
We didn't talk about the episode, but where she was literally letting dude beat off, looking at her feet. Like, come on.
Yeah, that was just. I was like, you just hit rock bottom. Like, you just understand. You're not made for this life. Like,
hit rock bottom, but at the same time, she also pioneered. She pioneered a
genre of porn. Literally.
I mean, there's a lot of mothers that are feeding their children off Alicent's back. You know what I'm saying?
Fact. Okay, he started OnlyFans.
Bro, you used to have to actually be in the room with these fucking perverts.
Fucking Jesus.
You didn't just send them some shit in the DM on OnlyFans. It's like literally they had to come over and then they had to sit by the fireplace.
Yeah, they're licking his club foot and fucking beating off.
Literally, man, he was going nuts.
Dude, weirdo.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think with Alicent, which I mean, the thing is, she doesn't have a husband now, so now she's like pretty much like completely off the rails. I think like she can really abuse that her sexuality as far as like to get allegiances or whatever. So it's like one thing I actually liked Alicent's character, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I love where she's going. I haven't loved some of her moves. I think the fact this Kristen Cole dude is still around and not at the very least like banished is wild to me. Like, and also
how he didn't get killed by somebody yet is so hilarious.
Killed or just put in fucking jail, or at the very least stripped of his titles, which should have absolutely happened. At this point, he's killed 2 people in front of people. And like unwarranted. Who's the second person he killed? He killed Homeboy's boyfriend, at fucking Rhaenyra and him's wedding. Like right there, it should have been done. I don't understand why nothing happened there. And then you had damn, he killed somebody else recently, and I'm bugging. Either way, it doesn't really matter. But I know he killed somebody else recently, and then I feel like he pull out his sword on because when the one dude, the other guy ended up leaving, the bald head Night's Watch guy, in that meeting, he pulled the sword out for some reason. I don't remember. Oh, he killed the fucking that's what happened. The fucking guy on the court. So
he killed the fucking banker.
Yeah, like Master Treasurer or whatever. Dude sitting there just speaking his piece and shit like that. He literally takes his head and slams it on the fucking table. Right then and there, that honestly kind of pisses me off now I'm thinking about it, because that is completely inconsistent with Game of Thrones in general. Like that nothing happened from that. That's nuts.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. I was like, so like nobody cuts his head off right then and there. Like, what are we doing?
Literally,
he killed someone on the king's court. Like, what are we talking about?
The other Night's Watch dude, he pulls his fucking sword out. And he's like, okay, well, put your sword down now. And then the dude, actually, he's ready to go. He's like, yeah, me and you are going now. And then Alicent or whoever says, like, put your shit away. He does. And at that point, they're just like, okay, well, let's move on with business. And which literally is what happened. And they say they're not opening up the door until they basically settle everything, which I guess maybe that's why nothing happened. We're just at such a point of immorality where something like that happens. So at that point, maybe everybody was involved. You feel what I'm saying? So they're like, yo, we got to go ahead and maybe they got rid of the body. So nobody can go to jail for it because we got to hide that this even happened because we're doing shady shit to begin with.
And that's why the dude left. He's like, yeah, I'm not being part of this. I'm going to go join the other side. Fuck off.
Yeah, he's like, y'all are criminals, literally. But we actually haven't seen that guy. I thought he was going to go to Rhaenyra as well, but that guy actually isn't the person that just joined him. The Eric dude, he joined him, which is the younger dude from the Night's Watch. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting because I feel we haven't seen him at all. I thought when we saw the Eric guy come up that might even be him, but it wasn't. So I do imagine he'll come into play one way or another because he was a pretty important character for the first 4 episodes or whatever. He was he served her father as well, so he's been in this shit for a long ass time. He's kind of like remember Jorah Mormont, where he came to.
No, he could be going protecting a bastard son or something.
Maybe, but he kind of reminds me of Jorah Mormont in the way where he came to Daenerys when she was first building her team out and shit like that. Remember, he showed up. We had episode 1 with the eggs and all that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but she was like the one piece of the actual kingdom. You feel what I'm saying? Like that kind of gave her some legitimacy. He was actually a knight at one point and things like that, even though he got involved in some like fucking human trafficking and shit like that. But you gotta do what you gotta do. We all got our reasons why we show up where we show up. So either way. I guess do you have a side that you like more? Do you have a favorite character so far that you relate to? Are you pulling for the greens? You pulling for the black and reds?
I mean, I think I'm pretty neutral. I mean, if I had to say, the greens have definitely did more shady business. I mean, you could just tell they're plotting, and I get it. It's because they don't have the heir to the throne. But then again, it's like, Rhaenyra is not even staying in King's Landing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, she's no threat to them. So this is one thing that I think is important. Rhaenyra taking the throne is, but I guess Otto Hightower, he said like but that's kind of him fear mongering, because from our perspective, where we see Rhaenyra and her intentions, that's nowhere even on her plan of things that she would be interested in doing if she took the throne to kill all of her siblings. But Otto Hightower, though, he's used that to fearmonger Alicent into feeling like she has to make a move in that way, because he's like, they're legitimate contenders to the crown, so she'll have to. But that's just not even how she's operating. Even now, when they've usurped her, she still is showing compassion and not wanting to go to war. You know what I'm saying? And not wanting to burn down the city. So, I think that's kind of the theme of the show. You know, definitely the theme of this season. I think it's been a lot of plotting, a lot of people using people to get to their ultimate goal, which is Game of Thrones in general. But in this case, you've seen it with kids a lot. I think that's been a difference between this original. You've seen people use their children in ways to basically fulfill their own ambitions. You saw that with Corlys. You saw that with Otto Hightower, with Viserys to a certain extent. You see it with
necessarily putting them in danger too, which is the crazy part.
Oh, for sure. But it's really just it's legacy. Even Corlys said something that I thought was really powerful, but really true. I thought it was good writing, where he had said when Rhaenys had said, like, what the fuck are you even doing? These are not your grandkids, stupid. Like, can't you fucking see that? And then he's like, history doesn't remember blood. They only remember names. So at the end of the day, yes, they're my grandkids, and that's what history is going to remember, is that we were on the Iron Throne. Those are our grandkids. And it's true. Like, if you think about history, like what I mean, you already know a little bit of my family history. I don't have the last name of people that I'm biologically related to. So think about how many times has that happened in my history over and over again. My experience and perception of my own history is, as far as my ancestors, is so small. You feel what I'm saying? So small. So how many times has the same experience that I've had in my life happened to my great-great-great-grandfather, and then it happened to my great-great-great-grandfather? You feel me? So it's like at some point you get so far removed and things get so muddied that, like, to sit there and bicker over things like, you know, blood, Corlys, I think, was right to a certain extent. And at the end of the day, his son was gay and, like, wanted dick. Like, it just is what it is. He wanted the duck. Like, they had the whole conversation. He's like, I love geese.
He's like, I got 2 grandkids. I have a son that didn't want anything to do with fucking women.
Exactly. I'm happy. Success. And the thing is,
what are we talking about?
Yeah, I wish. And at some point, I don't understand why Rhaenyra can't just say, like, hey, he went off. Like, he's not dead. I didn't kill him. Like, I don't understand why that's something they have to keep a secret forever, because they might go search for him, I guess, which I don't even know if that would be the case. So I think they're kind of being silly with how much they're trying to take that one to the grave, in my opinion. I think that's something that needs to be out in the open so you can kind of solidify trust between your families. I mean, I guess maybe you at this point you may be worried that they wouldn't even believe it, but yeah. So I mean, for me, definitely both sides. There's always, with Game of Thrones, one thing I love is that they will put characters in there that you despise their actions, but you like what they contribute to the show. So, like, for me, when Joffrey died, I missed Joffrey in the show. Like, when his brother Tommen took over, I'm like, this shit's kind of boring, to be honest, and I hated Joffrey. Everything Joffrey did, I didn't like, but the dynamic that it brought to the show was important. Excuse me. So I think Game of Thrones does that. That's just great writing. Same thing with, like, Ramsay Bolton. Like, I didn't like shit that he did. He was a fucking monster. But at the end of the day, like, the dynamic he brought to the show and the kind of, like, danger that he put other characters in made it a little interesting. You know what I'm saying? And his unpredictability. And one thing that you mentioned earlier, now I'm thinking about it, with Aegon. I think Aegon there's going to be some parallels with Joffrey as far as him being a kid king and being impulsive and things like that. But I think there's a big difference between Aegon and Joffrey. And it is, Aegon has openly said several times now he doesn't want to be king. And I think that there's some, like, real emotional issues with him, as far as, like, not mental issues like there was with Joffrey, where he's flying off the hill and he just wants to see people die. I think with Aegon, there's some kind of, like, just, like, weird underlying suffering that's happening that I think we'll get to know a little bit through the character. But I mean, I still think that he's cruel. I still think that he doesn't see people as equals and things like that. Obviously, by the fact that he had his own offspring down there in, like, the fighting pits and shit, and he was watching fucking kids get their fucking nails sharpened and their teeth sharpened and being unleashed on each other. So he's fucked up, no doubt. But I think that as far as, like, emotionally, how he's going to handle things, I think there's going to be a decent difference between him and Joffrey. So I don't think it'll be a remix so much. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just he'll be a little bit sicker. He's a little bit more depressed and hurt.
Yeah,
He's a little bit more of a psychopath with it. That's why he's down there with
maybe his
kids, fucking birthing kids, is just to fight them like dogs. Fucking sick.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Take him out back and just fucking put two bullets in him. That's where he belongs.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
For the grave.
And I think that there's a good chance, like I said earlier, I think there's a good chance he doesn't.
He has to.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, so something I had read was that the creators of the show see it lasting 4 seasons. I don't know if that's going to end up being the case. But yeah, I just read an article where it might have been even George R. R. Martin talking about it. But either way, somebody involved with the show was saying that they see this lasting 4 seasons. How do you feel about that?
They're gonna fucking skip through so much shit. It's like, why didn't you just wait? If you're gonna be lazy, you should have just waited to fucking drop this one. This is the most important part of the storyline. And if you're just gonna fucking fumble fuck it, then you know what I'm saying, you might as well never make the rest of them.
Well, I mean, something I would like to see them do, and I guess this is where we can really leave it, is I'd like to see them go off on more stories that don't necessarily have so much source material backing it. I think something that's made this show kind of interesting is that how the Fire and Blood story is written is more like a story telling of history rather than like a POV chapter to chapter like the Game of Thrones books are. So it's given the writers a little bit more freedom to change things slightly because history is unreliable. So if you're reading a history book, if you're reading an American history book, like just assume that some of that shit's not 100% accurate. You feel what I'm saying? So like with
it's not nowadays.
Yeah, so like with the Fire and Blood history, you can do the same thing. Like for example, with Daemon's wife in the book, there's no like it's not implicitly stated that, or it's not explicitly stated that Daemon killed her. It just says that she had died by hitting her head on a rock. So it doesn't incriminate Daemon at all. So in that, the writers had interpreted that as, oh, well, Daemon must have done that. So, but that's not explicit in the books at all. But for a purpose of storytelling, they added that, and it didn't really, it didn't go against the source material at all, which I know sometimes that could be an issue for people. It just added to it, really. So I would like to see a situation where you have great writers involved, great show creators involved, and take a story that's in the Game of Thrones universe, but where it's not shackled at all by a through line that's already been written. You feel what I'm saying? Like, yeah, give us new characters even. I'd like to see houses that we haven't seen as much history on. Something that already did this to a certain extent, but it's not as big of a medium, is there was a Telltale video game, Game of Thrones video game, where they went over where you basically played as characters from this House Forrester, I think, or some shit like that. And it was a completely original house, completely original story for the game. And it was really interesting because what they were able to do, basically they kill the entire house in the show the game, because they were able to do that. They weren't married to these characters. These characters didn't have to go on and do anything, so you can just do whatever serves the story the best. You feel what I'm saying?
Right. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So either way, interesting stuff.
That's the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
I mean, because it just seems a little bit about how the history is written and stuff. Some of it doesn't make sense the way that it plays out. So it's like, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't speak too much. But it just gets interesting, and the way everything kind of goes it's kind of like seems kind of dumb. So hopefully they do tweak it a little bit and they make some adjustments. But so far it's been so good. I mean, I can't really complain too much.
Yeah, no, my opinion is still, if not the best produced TV series on television. It's like top 5, and honestly, probably top 5, top 10 of all time as far as like just the story goes. They're not limited. They're not scared to do some wild shit. But then also like there's just great writing, like from top to bottom. It's great. Visually it's great. The dragons look fucking insane. They look as good as anything you're going to see in any movie. So the production quality is just on point. So yeah, top 5, not 5. You feel me?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, someone was saying, they spend like $200,000 per episode. I mean, well, shit, it's fucking worth it because they're making triple that every fucking episode, quadruple.
Yeah, and it's living forever. And that, like, as long as you don't tarnish the series, then this is a series you'll be able to continue to make stories about. It's like Star Wars. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's how much, in my opinion, it like
resonates.
Yeah. Resonates. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it resonates with people. You know what I mean? Like most people I work with almost everybody I work with is familiar with Game of Thrones at the very least, if they're not actively watching it. You feel what I'm saying? Not a lot of shows like that. I got to put people on to a lot of shit, if anything, if we're trying to talk about it. But
You put me onto that shit.
well, but a long time ago. But then once you now it's like any type of shit that comes out with Game of Thrones. That's you need the introduction. But then at the end of the day, once you get that introduction, now you're locked in, and that's I feel like what it's like for everybody. I did the same thing. My dad, I introduced to this. He didn't want to watch it, and then at the end of the day, this motherfucker is obsessed with Game of Thrones at this point. My mom, same thing. Like she'll hit me up about the episodes and stuff. Like everybody, it appeals to everybody in that way. So I think it's something that I agree with you. Like it's something you, as HBO, you should invest in. It's like it's your flagship brand at this point.
Right. I think they should not butcher the the writing. They need to make sure that they watch what these writers be putting out, because sometimes they just be trying to do too much, and then the story gets all fucked up. The fact that they said they only want 4 seasons, I still think that's too short. That's just fucking ridiculous. You should at least give it 6. There's
No,
so much that they've skipped through already,
true.
and that's why, like, when you watch some of the episode, like you feel like you're missing some shit, because like some shit can't just be explained within an hour and 20 minutes, man. You know, you
Sure.
got so much shit going on, when it comes to that history, and you're trying to just kind of cram it all in. It just seems rushed.
Well, and also I'm not opposed to like with video games and shit like that. Like give me some side quests. You know what I mean? I want to see some other shit that's going on. It
Show
does
all the children.
Yeah, it doesn't have to literally be like so concise and so focused on this specific thing. Like I know there's other situations that people are plotting on. I thought it was interesting. Like for example, like this probably wouldn't be the main storyline, but then it became very important later in the series. So it was important the seeds that they planted at the beginning of the series, which was the Boltons taking over Winterfell. Like eventually that becomes a huge thing, but really that's like a side thing. Like in this show, they probably wouldn't show that. Just one day you'd probably just hear somebody say to another person like, "Oh, hey, yeah, the Boltons took over Winterfell," just so you know, like exposition. But with the old show, it spent a ton of time building up the resentment that the Boltons had. The Boltons were they literally were directly involved with the Red Wedding. Ramsay was running around kidnapping motherfuckers for this big plot the entire time. So I feel like with this series, we've missed out on some of like the underlying plots that end up coming and paying off big time at the end. It's been so focused on just what the general main plot is.
That's what, because it's being rushed, and that's what I'm saying. The character building is just not there as it is with the other one. Like, instead of having maybe 30 to 40 characters that you're skipping back forth and all have like different plots and roles and stuff like that. Now you may have like only 20 characters to where you really have main roles, and you're really going back and forth, which is really not the same, because you could have more in there. Like there's so much more to the story, like especially with the kids that you don't see and stuff like that. Like there's just so much more.
No, I feel,
But
yeah.
I mean, hopefully season 2 they'll slow it down and take their time. Maybe they just wanted to kind of.
Started out, yeah, because I mean, we did have what like 3 actor changes or 2 actor changes, 3 for some. Which, but then, by the way, this motherfucker Kristen Cole looking fucking like the day we met him, fucking stupid as fuck. That pissed me off too.
I know exactly. Get this. I'm tired of looking at bitch ass nigga. Get the fuck out of here. Hopefully they change his ass in the second season.
All
What
right,
the
brother.
fuck?
Let's shut this down, man. I appreciate you for doing the House of Dragons breakdown with me. We got to find some other stuff to do this kind of shit
Oh,
with.
for sure.
Yeah, the House of Dragons, it was fun. I enjoyed watching the episode with you actually last night, and yeah, man, it's good shit. Much love to you.
It was good shit, man. Good shit. It was good doing this with your brother always. We definitely got to get another show.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, I know I did watch Lord of the Rings, so we can always pop that off whenever you want to.
I gotta watch that. Let's see
Yeah,
what.
no, it's that. I won't say too much, but it has kind of a Game of Thrones kind of vibe on the end. So I'll just say it like that.
Yeah,
Big fucking pussy.
I've heard some shit with Sauron in there and all that. People speculating who's the evil eye of Sauron and shit. So yeah, we'll definitely that might be something to talk about. But
Yeah, I mean, you get that at the end. I mean, it's very funny. It's an interesting situation, I'll say the least. Like, um, to me, it's a lot of character building just to just muck it all away at the end. So
No, I feel that. No, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look to see what else. There's a bunch of scary shit going on because it's maybe we do some movie reviews too. So either way,
yeah, we definitely go see some movies, man.
yeah,
There's some good movies coming out. So
yeah.
definitely need to go check them out. I mean, the only problem is like the movies are, they feel dirty at times. Ever since COVID, man, you go to a movie, you're like, oh man, do I want to sit down?
Definitely, they started putting shit direct to the box. You feel me? And it gets a little. It seems like a hassle to get to the movies.
I know, dog. And I used to love the movies.
Oh,
If I can get it on my TV though, boy, I would sit right there on that couch happily.
yeah, I do love the movies, but it's like, damn, I got a baby that I don't have a babysitter for anymore.
That's true. That is true, man. Yeah, man, I feel that.
Shout out to Smooth Recoil, man. Just, check out Smooth Recoil.
Smooth, man. If you're on the game right now, let me tap in.
Definitely, yeah. He just hit me and said that the Monday Night Football game's over, so I got to check to see what happened there. I'm assuming the Bears went ahead and ran that up.
Yeah, the Bears went ahead and tapped that ass. It looked like.
Damn it.
I mean, I don't know. Bailey Zapp was balling though.
Yeah, no, he was doing his thing for sure. Came in, fucking Mac Jones couldn't do anything, and he came in and he was balling. But either way, I appreciate y'all. Like, share, subscribe, share this with the. It does a long way as far as like getting the ball rolling and getting people, new people, involved and stuff like that. New people in here sitting and politicking with your boys.
Copy paste. You already know.
Copy and paste. Don't be a bitch. It's free, call. And like I said, just send it to somebody that would like this kind of content. Otherwise, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great week.
Check us out. House of the Dragons season 2. We'll be running the reviews.
There, we will be. Yeah, get the
spoilers.
Look, at you. So you need to copy this, show some love, and then also just enjoy the content. Every Tuesday, new episodes. Every day we're dropping random fucking episodes. We're going crazy with it. So appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Show support. We're out. Let's go. All right.